taking place in and around the country. 10 provinces throughout the nation having all cast their votes for a local, national, legislative and of course presidential votes in and around the country. Polling stations having opened up as convenient as 7 a.m. this morning, but of course a few delays within Bulawayo and Harare, however, have been timelessly addressed, acknowledging the 12-hour moratorium off the polling stations to ensure that voting would be taking place. And also be taking quite a close look at some of the updates from various reporters in and around the country, giving us an appreciation of the day as it develops. As per usual, I'm aptly joined in studio by Lucy Ngosolo, who also has quite a bit to share with us, those who have managed to cast their vote today.
Siyabonga muri Zimbabwe silokho siqhubekela ke phambili esilethulela okwenzakalayo ngendlela lapho abantu abavotela khona lapho namhlanje mhla ka 23 August 2023 lapho ke iZimbabwe ehamba ukuyavota kuma polling stations achiyechiyeneyo. Sibona ke ukuthi abanengi sebevotile, iziphathamandla ezichiyechiyeneyo bavotile ke abagoqela bona obaba uMthuli Ncube usevotile laphana, uOphamchunguri laye uvotile, umsekeli kamongameli webandla lezanu PF laye usevotile, uDr CDGN laye uzivotile laphana, uComrade Kembo Mohadi usevotile laye, umongameli webandla lezanu PF uComrade Mnangagwa uvotile laye, kuthi ke unkosikazi Elizabeth Valerio laye usevotile ngasewange khona ngale. Sebevotile abantu abanengi njalo ukuvota kulokho kuqhubekela ke phambili kunoendelera mbere kuvota, tichitarisira kuti kunosvika nenguva dza 7 manheru ma polling stations anenge achivhara zvikuru sei ma polling stations avhura kane nguva dza 7 dzinova edzo nguva dzakakodzera kubva na 7 kusvika na 7 manheru vanhu vanenge vachiri kungovota, vantu vachinkira kunembo akavavota mpuli yeZimbabwe ziri kuenda ikavotu mukati ikamasena asiyene masena andene zvonse ziri kujatwa ikavotu alivo ivantu bali kuvota basi mutora twambo va ZBC nkuva ali kumasena asiyene bali kutwetera itwambo tutotia ntutulangiride takatarisa kafarai kuti vatori vena veZBC vazere variko kunze uko vari kutipa mashoko akasiyana nezviri kuitika ikoko farai.
Most certainly, of course, we do have a national coverage in all 10 provinces, ensuring that we will give you adequate update of the electoral process as it takes place. Now let's listen in to Gerald Sasa, who gives us his update on the recent election in the polls.
Voting is progressing well in Uzumba constituency. We are currently at Gapara Musosonwa polling station, which is Ward 15, where voting started at 7 a.m. Currently, I'm with Gogo Munovane from Kanyasa village, who has just voted and is now ready to go home. Gogo mungarisana nguro kuti mavota zvakaita sei, queue yange yakamira sei?
Aiwa, tavota zvakanaka. Hatina mbona dambudziko remere papa nerunyararo rwakanaka.
Saka iye zvino maakuita sei manje?
Takudzokera kumba kunosorora murugare.
No, that was one of the elderly voters who has just completed voting and is now on her way home together with the 2 other colleagues.
Aiwa, tabatsirwa zvakanaka chaizvo. Vanyatsoona kuti machembera aya haachakwanisa nemakumbo, tabatsirwa. Tanzwa kufara, tiri kufara chaizvo kuti titavhota zvakanaka zvisina bishi kana kudii, zvisina kumanikidzwa, kunyatsovhota takasungunuka.
Akiyenge yakarongeka zvakanaka. Ingesina kana chipingaidzo. Vanhu vachifamba zvakanaka, vachivhotawo zvakanaka.
We also managed to speak to the presiding officer at this polling station, Miss Eunice Zindi, who said for the first 1 hour, that is from 7 to 8 a.m., about 47 people had voted, and when they started in the morning, there were about 72 people who were in the queue. And as you can see, the queues are very long but moving quite well. We have just counted on the female side, over 60 people are in the queue, and on the other queue, which is made up of males, they are about also over 60. There's also another queue just behind there, made up of the elderly, who are being given a first preference so that they do not have to wait in the same queue with the young ones. This is ZBC News, the real African voice. 2023, Zimbabwe decides.
Indeed, electoral processes happening throughout the nation, and will now be extending further to Chimanimani. We'll be listening in to Tamuka Charakupa's update on what's currently taking place there. All right, then we will extend that report just a bit later on. However, we are currently joined in studio by Dr. Leopold Chakanyuka, who's a political analyst, to be able to share with us with regards to the developments that have taken place in regard to the electoral process. Your insight thus far?
I think so far the processes have gone pretty well. And to give a fair assessment, I think we need also to check what observers have said so far. You know, we had the African Union who came, we have SADC came, President Chisano who is here, the churches, and I think their words have always been encouraging. They've seemed to be very happy with what we have done so far, and you can also witness for ourselves that the process from the day when the proclamation was made right up to today, we haven't had challenges, and we are praying that this environment continues right up until we finishes the election. And of course, we had, few challenges with actually some places where we had ballots coming a little bit late. And I'm happy because ZEC was able to clarify on what is going to happen in those particular areas where the ballot came a little bit late, that everyone should not be worried because everyone is going to be given an equal opportunity to vote. So people shouldn't disperse, people shouldn't be worried. They are going to be given enough time to vote. That 12-hour period is going to be afforded to every constituent. So we should be happy because, the processes are going on very well. And I hope and pray that even the election, when the results start coming, we are going to maintain this particular political maturity that we have been able to display right from today.
Now, the significance of the general election also expresses the extent to which the Zimbabwean Republic engages itself within the democratic process, hence involving international observers regionally, but also incorporating local observers. How important is that in being able to narrate the direction that we're trajectorying towards in this election?
Because what happens in an election is, of course, election is a sovereign right that we can determine on how we want to conduct our elections. Right. But hearing a voice from outside is also very important, because it will help us in developing our democracy, to learn from outsiders. So when observers come, they are observing our processes, and they will be able to give us their word or their advice on where they would have seen perhaps maybe we need to improve or sort of. So it's very important that we do so. We have others who come and assess our situation and give us a feedback. It helps us to grow democratically. And a good thing is also that as Zimbabwe, we are party to a number of international organizations that deals with elections. We are part of the SADC principles on democracy and elections. We recently, in 2018, acceded to the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, which means that we as a country, we also want to be looked at from the perspective of the whole region, to say when someone is sitting out there in the African Union is able to measure our elections based on what we collectively agreed as the African continent. So it's encouraging that we are willing to be marked not only based on our own set standards, but by the standards also that we set at continental and at international level.
Right. I'm glad that you do highlight the international component that our country subscribes to, especially within the electoral process. It has been acknowledged that African states in themselves have also defined their own application of democracy to be able to extend themselves into what they foresee as growth. How important is it for international and local observers to have an appreciation of the context in which elections take place, not only in Zimbabwe, but extending throughout the African continent?
Yeah, but I think it's on them to learn more about, to understand the electoral process. I'll give you an example perhaps of South Africa. When you look at the electoral processes in South Africa, they are different from the electoral processes that we have here in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, they have proportional representation, where you vote for a party and then the party will nominate its MPs, and then the MPs will vote for a president. So if you are going to South Africa, going to observe elections there, you have to understand that perhaps you are coming from Zimbabwe, where we have a completely different approach, and so you are going there, you have to learn the process there. And so if someone from South Africa is coming to observe elections here in Zimbabwe, need to understand that ours is first past the post, right? We need, for one to be declared a president-elect, you have to have 50% plus one vote. So an observer needs to come and understand that particular scenario, and understand also the legal provisions that we have, how our courts operate. Because there is one issue that a lot of people sometimes we try to take advantage of, or because the majority of the people do not understand how our institutions operate, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, that these organs operate independently. Even ZEC operate independently of all these institutions. So when an observer is coming to observe our election, they need to understand that decisions that are made by ZEC are solely decisions of ZEC. If the decisions that are made by the judiciary, they are all solely decisions of the judiciary. It acts according to the provisions of our constitution and our electoral laws. So there is no interference. One of the state institutions does not stretch its arms to another. So observers, when they are coming, they need to be able to understand and to appreciate when a decision is made by the courts. They have to appreciate and understand why that decision has been made. If ZEC makes a decision, they have to look at it from the legal point of view and see if ZEC has followed the laws, not to look outside of that particular institution, because that's how our institutions operate. It might be different from other countries.
Right. Now, as a young democracy of only 43 years, it does seem to be able to at least clear that there's a high level of maturity that has been espoused with regards to engaging the electoral process by the electorate. What has necessitated towards Zimbabweans being able to approach this particular process in the manner that they have so far?
Yeah, it's a very, very, very interesting, the fact that within a period of 40 years we have been able to be where we are today. There was a statement that was made by one of the observers who came from African Union, right? It say this election is going to be an example, of how other countries can. So it's inspiring when another African countries are looking up to the elections that we are having to say this is a template of how an election can be conducted in an African countries. It clearly shows that we as Zimbabweans, we have come to understand that elections are there for us to participate in the governance of our country, and we still have that particular objective of building our country. And remember, Zimbabwe is a country with a very unique history, right, that we need to understand that for us to be where we are, we fought for the independence, we fought for the democracy, we suffered for this democracy. So it's a democracy, right, that Zimbabweans would not really trade for anything, because it's a hard-won democracy, because we fought for it.
Right. And then also, if we appreciate that currently we do have people going to the polls, the decision that ultimately comes is when the collation of these results do come in. It is then when one says that the game actually then begins. It is then when the electoral process results into the expectation of those who have cast within the ballots. What can we look forward to on the current trajectory that we're going through with regards to ZEC, its management of the polls, but at the same time its release, which is given to the 5-day maximum for a presidential candidate?
So far, I think in the manner in which ZEC has handled themselves or they've operated, I don't think there is any worry, or there should be any worry about the timing of the results. We hope and believe that they are going to deliver as per the electoral laws, and they are going to do justice to what they are supposed to be doing. And everyone, I believe, is going to be. And one thing that we also need to understand, as the results are going to be coming, is we as different people, we have different opinions. We might have different candidates that we would have wanted to win. But an election is not only about an individual, but it's a collective decision. We have people also who don't share the same views that we share. Right. So people might vote for a candidate that perhaps you didn't vote for. That should not discourage you. And even for those who might not win, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are less important Zimbabweans. You still remain an important Zimbabwean who has a role to play in the development of this country. That vision which you wanted to put into practice, you can still bring it and make sure that it's put to practice. You can still be a hero even if you have lost an election to the people of Zimbabwe by the manner in which you're going to be conducting yourself after the elections.
Right. Now, fully appreciating some of those sentiments, we will come back to those shortly, but let's now listen in to Tamuka Charakupa, who is currently in the Chimani Mani, giving us the update at the polls there.
Ana gogo makadi
aiwa tirina nedu makadini ana mukoma
tinofara taona nguva dzatova kuma 2 matopedza nezvazvo makutoenda kumba
takutoende kumba nokuti tiri kuzwa kufara.
Muri kufarirei?
Kufare kuzviro zviri kuitwa nokuti takafarisa kubva muna 80 tiri tanga tisikavhoti, asi kuvhota kwedu kwakwa kuenda mugiraundi kuchimani-mani repakliniki riyarera tichipembera tirimo. Saka zvatakasangana nazvo kubve kune nguvayo nanamusi tiri kundoona vanhu vachiuya zvichinga zvinosimukira zvakatinakira. Saka tinozoda fara.
Gogo, ndaona masvikawo futi makatanga kuvhota gore ripi ramunorangarira kuti
inombuya madheti hazi kupera kwehondo.
Kupera kwehondo?
Tikavhotere pabiriri apo paprimary.
Tiri kuona taamuna 2023 muchiri kungovhota. Kuvhota kwakanyasokosherei?
Kuvhota kwakakoshere kuti tigare zvakanaka. Tisaramba tichinga tinodini tisikazi kusununguka. Saka tinoda kusununguka tichiende kuminda tichirima, tichione hwana hwesikuru hwechifara, tichitsvake mari dzesikuru tichiriritira vana vedu zvakanaka. Ndo pakanakire kuvhota.
Gogo, vezera rangu vechidiki vangada kuziva kuti kurudziro yamungavape ndei maringe nekodzero dzekuvhota. Zvakakosherei muupenyu hwavo kuti vaite kodzero idzi?
Kodzero idzi chetinoda kuti vana vedu ngavazive ngechekuti kuti vasikadi kuteedzere zvinotaurwa, munhu wakadaro unofarira rombe achitambura nokuronzerwa navakuru kuti ngatidai. Unenge asikadi, unode mari yokuba, haiwa yake yokusenza ngesimba. Ndinoti kuti vana vedu kudai mwadawo kushanda, kudai mwadawo kufunda, kudai mwareke kuba, chirekerai kuti hai adhara akanga asikazivi. Imimwe hamuna chomunoziva, teerai sure kwavo kuti zvozoona kufamba.
Mambosanganawo here nemhirizhonga kubva pachikambenewa kusvika nhasi musi wekuvhota? Pane pamambonzwawo pari kurohwa vanhu kana kupiswa kana zvamati isusu vechikuru hatina kuzvifarira?
Inini ndagara mabiriri muno kubva kudera kuseminari kwedu kune chikoro chiri kusvikira pandiri pano handina chandamboona kana kunzwa kana kubvira zuva ratakazwa kuti hai tidozovhota musi wa 23 pano pandoyekwa biri kudai ini andina chendakazwa pachezvangu handidi kunyepa ndikutozwa kufarira kudai 23 wacho wasvika nokuti tinotambudzika kudangani vana edu dai pane chingapundurawo vakazoonawo mabasa nemvura dzatinopuwa teifara nemigodhi yatinopuwa muno mwanga mwakaoma mune nzara muno asi muwakuona magirini kwakuona kuti kunaka kwazvo kunobudikidzwa ngekudini ngekushanda toda kuti vana vedu vashande nekufunda vasaite zvidhakwa teku kudai yaibvira inini ndaimupisha.
Gogo, muri kunzwa sei nenyaya yerunyararo? Sarudzo dzino dzakasiyana here nedzimwe dzamakamboona maringe nerunyararo?
Sarudzo dzakanaka ngekuti tinodzorora chendabva kureketa ndicho chendiri kudzokorera kuti vana vedu vanodzorora tine rufaro ndochakanakire sarudzo.
You have heard for yourself from the seasoned voter here at Musha Primary School, and right beside me is another one, but this time a first-time voter. Sisi munozani?
Spiwe Sindimu.
Spiwe Sindimu. Muri kunzwa sei kunge mavhota kekutanga muupenyu hwenyu?
Ndiri kuzwa kufara.
Sei muri kunzwa kufara?
Kufara kuvhota kuti zviro zvedu zvitiitire mune zvakanaka. Tigare mune zvakanaka murunyararo.
Ndepi kurudziro yamungambope kune vamwe vechidiki vasara kudzimba vari kuona kunge sarudzo dzisina basa?
Ndinovakurudzira kuti dai auya avhota kuti tigare zvakanaka munyika mwedu munomu, tive tiri anhu akagare zvakasununguka.
We are now proceeding to Makwe along the Chimanimani Nedziwa Highway, and we will be continuing with updates.
Thank you so much there to Tamuka Chabarapukupa, giving us the updates that are taking place in the Chimanimani. But more significantly also, we will be extending to our Montrose studio, where we're joined by Boipelo Ndlovu, who will be giving us also the updates in that part of the country. Boipelo, good afternoon, and over to you.
Re a leboha haholo re santse re tswela pele ka lenaneo la rona re le mo Montrose Studios. Leina la ka ke Bophelo Ndlovu. Re tswela pele re tseba hore ka jeno ke letjatji la dikgetho mo batho ba tswelang pele ba yo votela baholwane ba batlang. Re tseba hore ka jeno ke letjatji mo setjhaba sa Zimbabwe se tsamayang o yo kgetha baholwane ba kopantšhelang moetapele wa lefatshe hangwe fela le baemedi ba ntlong ya parliamente le makhansela. Re tseba hore dikgetho ja lefatshe lena ke dikgetho di tshwarwa ka morago a mengwaga ye mehlano ebile batho ba lefatsheng lena ba na le tokelo ya hore ba kgethe baholwane ba batlang ha re tseba melayo e bo mabapi le ja dikgetho hangwe fela le melayo ya lefatshe. Re tswela pele ka jeno re tseba hore setjhaba se tsamaile ka bongata diplekeng di fapaneng, batho ba khumari ba kgegolo ba khalabe ba sejana le ba semana le bona ba sepentšheja hore ka nnete ba thekgeja mananeo a tshwarwang lefatsheng a bo mananeo a kopantšhelang hore lefatshe le kgone ba le tswela pele. Re tseba hore ba bangata ba tshwetlela hore dikgetho jena di tobakela hore lefatshe le kgone ba le tswela pele ha re tshwetla mananeo a bo mabapi le ja tulo entle, mananeo a bo mabapi le ja bophelo hangwe fela le ja khumo. Re tswela pele ka lenaneo la rona ka jeno re bone ho tshwanetse hore re se tsamaya re le nosi, re bone ho tshwanetse hore re rape bangwe baholwane ba togonang hore ba te ba re tlhaloseje ka tswe re etsahalang ka letjatji lena la di 23 tsa Phatho. Re tseba hore dipleke e ja ho votela re bojwe ka ora ya 7 e phakela mme bongata kwa batho ba seno tsamaya diplekeng re fapaneng re le mo toropong ya Bulawayo. Re kgonne ore re bije o mongwe wa moholwane ba ja dikereke Ntate Bonolo Nuku a tswang ho kereke ya LCZ a bongena a toro tlhalosejang je dingata mabapi lore keng se asno se bonang se etsa ala diplekeng re fapaneng. Re a le amela Ntate Bonolo Nuku o lenaneo la rona la ka jeno.
Ke a boka ke mongwe ba sonofaja ho vota ke tsamela ka phakela re ne ba ngwana mo mara ke bone hore hae batho bothe ba igemisedije ba nyaka ho vota wono ne khotso ha ona bana ba prekeje bangwe di lining ha ona bana ba sudana batho bana ba tsamaka ka tshwanelo ya yo vota ni le buru jaka jere ke fonela na kwa ba bongona ne bana ba mpuja sa soro o ne khotso pele hanto ine khotso ke yona nto e rebela la rote.
Re tswela pele ntate Noko re a twa nya tlhalosetsa ore lefatsheng mo una le kgotso re a tswela pele re bona ore ne lena le ni snogwa o yo vota ke mantswe a fene ka khuthajang setjhaba sa lefatsheng lena ore ka morao ha re kgetho ke eng se tshwanetse mo etsa ala lefatsheng lena
kgotso e tshwanetse e be hona hare ha rona wene puo ya Sesotho e re ya pare re a ruana ka digoro mara merero re a rerisana ka ba ka re ho ba wene kgotso o ska ba ne mongwa ka ba gopola a nka da ke paleji a go sana ntwe tshwanetse re be nako ye ta ka re kgetho je di day mengwa ka mengwa ya ne beilwe ka molao ka re ha molao o re tshwanetse re la dile molao wa lowe
re tswela pele re a bona ore ka nete ne ya tlhalosetsa ore le ka morao ha re kgetho o tshwanetse ba le kgotso lefatsheng lena lona ba re kereke ke ntwa mang se ne seno se bonang ka ore ne ya tlhalosetsa ne re ni na ni seno tsamaya ne ya vota plekeng ya lona ke eng se ne se bonang ha ni tshwetla metsila ya batho ba tsenang ore ba yo vota ni bone bo mang
no ke ba bone ba ne ba lebelelang dikgetho bang ba gwanta mafatshe ke ba bone ha re kwa zuwa mara ke ba bone ne ba bang ba lebella ba emo hae ba ke ba tsebang ke ba bone bana ba hona na mo ha rena to ke zwile na bo kilo fela nje re lumedisana ka nna ke ne ke nyaka re ke yo loka ka vote mara ke a bona ra hai mothothe khotso ya belaela ha o sna khotso na ntwe ka idiang ho ka di bana khotso go bona ni pula ne ne tsena ka bana khotso
ne ya tlhalosetsa ne ya re buja je ngata mabapi le ja pula re ya bona hore ne o mongwe wa moholwane lefatsheng lena ha ne tlhalosetsa ne tseba ja le merero ya Sesotho e supang zotlhe re bo mabapi le ja o tshwara le kgetho mabapi le kgetho ha ba holwane ke nto mang se ne ka se tlhalosetsang setjhaba sa Zimbabwe re tshwetla hape le sethu
ntwe nka khotha ja hore ha re kgethe ba holwane bana ba re ba kgetha re ba thomphe ka ro kgetha nta le hona ana mo re tswa re modimo re thusa khothe yana fowe ha ona se re so solang ha re tsamaiseng ka tsela ya hona ka re ngore ho ba hona ha o sna ngore o ka tswa ro ndile ba ha o no ngore le ha re tsamaise ka tsela tshwanetseng ya o thompha ne tula ye to dire ba re ba siang ka re ha se na di last born le fatsing le ho sa ne ba pataba ba ladila ka mothala wa no wa khotso no thompha
ria utlwa ore ni bolela je ngata ri bo mabapi e lore bana bao ba to tsenang hona jwale a se bona ba o feleleja ba to thweng ba to tsena ni a tlhalosetsa ne re setjhaba a se ko tshwalela hore batho ba kwate ore ke mang a seno tsenang lona nka ba holwane ke nto mang ha ni loda ni tshwela ka re ya tseba re kgetho ja lefatseng lena ke ja mongwa ke jona ja bo 9 ja bo roba ngwe di tshwarwang lefatseng lena lona bunka batho ba thang ba vota ke mantswe a fene ka khuthajang batjha ba swa ba sa holang
ntwe nka khothatsa ho ba baswa nax no tsena dikgetho jote jana jo gwa lefatse le khumana go busa amuhela se se gwang hana mo maile mo re kgetho ja jo a se amuhela o tseba re wini nako ya re ha ona ntwe go tshwara botse nako yeta o toba futhi no o bening of vote ntwe ba batho ntse tshwara dikgogotshong ba ga bojena di apantselwe ha ibahi ntwe re nyakang ke khotso ha bene khotso mo batho re di ntwe jote ka khotso re no tomona twote
ria utlwa ore ka nete ne ya ba khuthaja setjhaba sa Zimbabwe ne khuthaja pe le baswa ke ma apeo mangwe mantswe ne ka bolelang ha re tshwetla ore lefatse la Zimbabwe le khone ore le latele tsohle re bo mabapi le milayo ya lefatse lena re a tseba ore hone milayo ya ja dikgetho e bong yona e tlhalosejang e supang ore batho ha o tshwara dikgetho ke nto mang se se tshwanetseng o etsahala
batho ha o ya khethong o ye o tseba ore khotso e thoma ka wena wa ro se bene khotso no wena ka seka ka ho wena khotso ito upalela so ha o bene khotso ha o se bene khotso ndo jote le tsa mabotse ndo se nje re tsebe gore motho o themo ke motho a bopileng ke modimo kwa rena rote kgethe mo ndo ba ha re bona re nyaka motho a to thomphang a ba tšhabane modimo o tobane khotso
a re a leboga haholo ke mantswe re a utlwang a itswa ho ntate Bonolo Noko a bong ba mongwe wa baholwane ba lefatseng lena a tleng ore a re tlhalosetse ka mokatswedi etsahalang lefatseng re a tseba ore ka jaji la ka jeno ke jaji la dikgetho ne ya tshwetla hape re bona ore bongata kwa batho ba tsamaile o yo vota o kopantshela lena ha le tshwetla monana wa ka o supa ore ke o mongwe wa batho ba tsamaileng ore ba yo vota ka o ba ke yona tukelo ya setjhaba sa lefatseng lena ha re tshwetla milayo moyo e bong mabapi le jo tshwara dikgetho re seso re santse re tswela pele ka lenaneo la rona re le mo Montreal Studios hona jwale re tokgona hore re kgone bo jana le mongwe wa bajaritaba Yolanda Moyo a tori fang jo ngata mabapi le tswele esahalang mo Awongteng.
23 Zimbabwe decides, and we are coming to you from Kulumane constituency in Kulumane 12, where I have Mrs. Marufu, a voter who has been voting since 1980. Mrs. Marufu, maybe ungasitshela ukuthi why is it important ukuthi umuntu avote nxa kulama elections?
Kuqakathekile kakhulu ukuthi umuntu avote nxa kulama elections ukwenzela ukuthi kulungiswe okuyabe kungani kakulunganga, kulungiswe nje yonke into, abantu babambane kube kuhle kube njana. Since 1980 sivota vela kulalutho esingathi thina kukhona okubi, kodwa siyajabula okunye okumangalisa ngokuvota ngokuthi kuvele kuqakathekile ukuthi kuvotwe.
Kulabantu abangarejistanga, wena since 1980 you are a registered person and you continue coming to register in all these elections abakhona. Any message olayo ebantwini abangarejistanga ukuvota?
Abantu abangarejista ukuvota mina ngabatshela ukuthi kumele ukuthi babuye bazorejista ukuthi bavote ngaso sonke isikhathi. Nxa kuzakuba lama elections abantu kabaphakame babuye bazevota. Kuqakathekile kakhulu ukuthi umuntu abuye azevota.
Siyananzelela ukuthi lapha eNkulumane 12 eClub Tent iqueue inkulu. Ubuye esikhathi bani? Siyananzela ukuthi wena umuntu olokhu ubuya all these years ufike esikhathi bani uzovota?
Ngivukile sibile kuseni ngoba ngivukile mina 5 o'clock ngikhangela ukuthi abantu bayeza yini, ngabona abantu sibile udwendwe labantu bebuya bezovota, kukhanya ukuthi abantu vele bayakuthakazelela ukuvota.
Siyabonga kakhulu Mrs. Marufu ube lelanga elihle.
Hayi lami ngiyabonga kakhulu sibili ngokuba leli langa kade sivele silimelele sonke umhlaba wonke siumelele ukuthi sizovota. Lami ngiyabonga kakhulu lani libe lelanga elihle.
That was Mrs. Marufu, a voter who has been voting since 1980, and this shows how she is determined in terms of casting a vote and also exercising a right as a Zimbabwean. This is ZBC News, the real African voice. 2023, Zimbabwe decides.
Siyabonga kakhulu Yolanda Moyo. Okwamanje Zulu siqhubela phambili ngohlelo lothi sisazi phela ukuthi imuli yeZimbabwe bahambe ngobunengi ukhetho ngoba namhlanje lusuku lokhetho lapho uZulu weZimbabwe akhetha khona umongameli welizwe, abameli bedale leParliament kanye lamakhansila. uZulu ukhuthazwa ukuthi kuqhubele phambili kunjalo kulokuthula njengoba abanengi ingciche kwezombusazwe sebechilo. Okwamanje imuli yeZimbabwe siqhubela phambili sikhulumisana lo Mhlomuli Ncube ongomunye wentatheli baze ZBC eselupane esabelweni semathebelele North, yena okhulumisa nele siphathamandla zeki mayelana lokhetho lolu oluqhubela phambili elizweni leZimbabwe. Siyakwamukela Mhlomuli Ncube.
Sisendaweni yaselupane emathebelele North okuyiso isigodlo sale indawo emathebelele North Province Command Center lapho esixoxisana khona lo baba uRichard Sibanda ophethe umsebenzi wokuvota lapha. Baba Sibanda, sizwe uhlelo lolu luqale njani namhlanje?
Uhlelo baba Ncube luqale kakuhle kakhulu kasila noma noyinye i-polling station ehlulekileyo ukuvula ngohola lesikhombisa ekuseni. Bavulile bonke basitshela ukuthi kumi kahle lanxa abantu bebengani baphuzaphuzile ukufika ngoba kuthe kuvulwa bebengabanengi kangako emzileni kumbe kuma-queues ema-polling stations.
Kulento njalo iqhakathekileyo nxa abantu bevota umumo kukhona na imbiko esekelezwa ngomumo?
Umumo uthule uthe zwi awusozutsho ukuthi kumbe kukhona okwenzakalayo, abantu bazihambela bekhululekile besiya lapha abavota khona. Asikezwa lutho okungabangela ukuthi kuvimbe abantu ukuyavota.
Kuma polling stations eno sesizwile lapho ukuthi lile 920 sikhangela ukuthi nxa ilanga leli liqhubeka kanje kuyini lingasitshela khona njalo?
Ama-polling stations wonke njengobusitsho baba Ncube ukuthi i-920 kuqotho lokho wonke ngike ngatsho ngaphambili into avuleke isikhathi esifaneleyo akhangelelwe njalo ukuthi azavala ngo-7 p.m. ntambama nxa kungekho okuphambanisekileyo ngoba nxa ke ukuthi ekhona ama-police stations angabevule ngemva kokuqala kwehola lesikhombisa ekuseni siyayengezelela isikhathi esingabe sidlule ngaso ekuseni umzekeliso nxa siphuze nge-15 minutes kusho ukuthi ntambama sizayengezelela nge-15 minutes silalamela ukuthi abantu bavote kungalakuma okwamahola ali-12.
Indawo north ilama constituencies esingathi thina lichumi lantathu 13 ama constituencies ase Matabeleland North njalo kulabo bavota kuma council edlula 1900 ngese sikuzwile sikhangela ukuthi sizakwala silinika imibiko ngokuya kwesikhathi.
Siyabonga kakhulu uMhlomuli Ncube yena oyenelise ukusethulela okuningi okwenzakala namhlanje nxa sisazi phela ukuthi namhlanje lusuku lokhetho lapho imuli yeZimbabwe esabalele khona yahamba endaweni ezehlukeneyo lapho uZulu atshengisela khona ukuthi ngempela ulandela imithetho yelizwe ngoba sisazi phela ukuthi konke kuqhutshwa kulandelwa imithetho elawula khona okumayelana lokuqhutshwa kokhetho elizweni. Rikhorebwa ngamandla richitshaba cha Zimbabwe enga ukona uri nikonotangana nenamusi richikotipa pori shangoni vatu vako kandira phanḓa nga uyo vota vachikonanga vaholisei vopambanawo richikotipa uri khetho idzi ndi khetho apo chitshaba cha Zimbabwe chinokopfi vatu vakone unanga murangaphanḓa khathihi na vaimeleli va khurogute na makhansila richidiva uri vatu vako ita izvi vachikotevera milayo yone inokhosedza nga zwa u fariwa ha dzikhetho shangoni lino la Zimbabwe. Zwa zwino richikobva ngeno Montrose Studios nedzina langa Buphilo Ndlovu richikati kandira phanḓa nga mbekanyamushumo ino rikho ni humisedza ama-studios a Phokezile apo rina Fare Gwazi anoko kandira phanḓa nga mbekanyamushumo iyi sisithokwa manje sesilivisela ePhokezile Studios lapho uFare Gwazi aqhubela phambili ngohlelo lolu sisazi ukuthi imuli yeZimbabwe iqhubela phambili ngokhetho.
Thank you so much, Thabo Pwela, for giving us the update from our Montrose studio. Still joined in studio by Dr. Leopold Chakanyuka. Your parting remarks as we get close towards the polling stations, at least getting towards most of their halfway marks, rather, and progressing towards what is expected, which will be the collection of the ballot box votes at each of the polling stations in and around the country.
I think what I just want to encourage the Zimbabweans is let's maintain the decorum and the behavior we have been, maintaining right from the start up until now. And let's make sure that these elections go smoothly. We have to support whatever we are supporting, but we have to respect each other in our differences, and we have to respect the different opinions, and even after the elections, because our common goal is to select a leadership that is going to deliver on what we want as Zimbabweans. And for those who are going to be voted and win, they need to realize that it's a responsibility that they would have been given by the people of Zimbabwe, and they shouldn't disappoint the people of Zimbabwe. They must use that particular opportunity to unite. Those who are going to win must be able to unite with those who have lost, so that we create the Zimbabwe that we all want, a Zimbabwe that we all feel comfortable in.
That's it, Dr. Chakanyuka. Thank you so much for your contributions. We definitely do look forward to speaking to you, of course, as the collation of the results progresses during the course of our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, then. And now we'll be getting an update, from Masvingo Bureau Chief Mercy Bofu, who will be giving us the update on the electoral processes taking place at various polling stations within Masvingo.
Thank you for crossing over. We are at Gutu District Command Center in Masvingo. Gutu is one of the 7 districts in Masvingo province, and we arrived here at 6 a.m. We have so far visited a number of polling stations, including Wiru, Chisheche in Gutu. Right now, I'm joined by Mr. Augustine Musasa, who is the Gutu District Elections Officer.
My polling station is run at 7 a.m. Sejuri pamtemo. Turn up yanga iripo yakati chaizvo nanhasi vachipo vanhu vari kuvhota. Gutu ine maconstituency 4 anovaiva go to central, go to east, go to south, go to west. Tine mawards 41. Tine 222 polling stations. Dzinovaidza kuti dzose dzavhura zvakanaka nhasi makuseni. Zvinhu zvedu zvakakwana.
Mungatitsanangurira kuti kubva pari zvino tichienda mberi ndezvipi zvatingatarisira muzuva ranhasi?
Ya tikutarisira kuti sezvo turn up yawanda kuseni nokufamba kwenguva ichange ichiita shoma shoma, and we tikutarisira kuti tichakwanisa kupedza maelectorate edu ese auya kuzovhota.
We also spoke to members of the public who were taking part in the voting process.
Kumba kwangu ndabva na 4:30 ndichifamba ndokundobva seri uko kune dzimba dziya dzakadurikidzana ndichidonzva ndichiuya pano ndikasvika pano 5:30.
Anditi. Tsanangurira kuti mune makore mangani ndii?
81 years. Ndakazvarwa 1942 musi wa 1 January.
Pake chingani muchivhota ini?
Inini? Kawanda mwana wangu. Kawandisa.
Amusati mambokona kuvhota ku?
Andina pandakambokona kuvhota.
Anditi.
Ndindaita munokutanga kusvika pano.
Ndakutsanangurira kuti ini kuvhota kwakakosherei zvaita kuti muve munhu wekutanga kusvika papolling station iyi?
Kuvhota kwakandikoshera kuti ndinowana mukana wokusarudza mutungamiriri wandinoda.
Ndasvika pana 8 ndokusvika ndobva ndatarisa zita rangu apo ndobva vanditarisira vachibva vatishimira apa ndobva ndati handikwasuma ndobva vandipa cheya yekugara somunhu usingaoni ndobva vachipinda mukati ndapinda mukati ndobva vanditira zvandaida ndobva vatishinda ndobva ndapedzerwa.
Mazviona zvakakunakirei zvakadini pane panoita chigozverere?
Hapana pandirwadza kana kuti pandagumbuka napo hapana.
Zvakakosha zvakadini kuti vanhu vavhote. Zvakakosha kuita kuti kana vanhu vavhote vatsvaka mutungamiriri wavanoda, iye mutungamiriri ende uchavabatsira kuramba vachiiti zvinenge zvonetsa iye nde unozvigadzirisa. Anditi nokuti tinofanira kuwana mumwe munhu watinoziva kuti unenge nde unotibatsira.
It's back to the studio. We will continue giving you updates as the day progresses.
Thank you so much there to Masibo for giving us the update within the Masvingo, most notably in Gutu district. Quite a few of the people there having made their way to the poll to be able to cast their vote during this general election taking place nationwide. Of course, giving you all the updates right here on the ZBC TV, on our ZBC News platform. Please ensure that you do keep sending us your questions, comments and your contributions on our social media at ZBC News Online. Joined again by Lucy Solo, who can also be able to at least attest to some of the pleasantries that have been happening during the course of the day.
Nzikingi zili kuchitika mpuli ya Zimbabwe, nzikingi zili kuchitika mukati ikamasena asiyene bantu bali kuinka kuyovota ibantu iba party you can testify mbuya bakutaura na Messi hanzi I'm 81 years old and I've never missed an election. Avasati vakamboregedza kuvhota. Zvinofadza mhuri yeZimbabwe kuti vanhu vari kuenda kunovhota vakasununguka zvavo vachinzwa kuti vari kuenda kunozadzikisa kodzero yavo, their constitutional right. Kulilungelo lakho njengomuntu nje uzizwa lawe uthabile usiyavota nje ukhululekile kunokuthula kuhambeka nje kulindlela enhle siqhubekela nje phambili silethulela lokho ke okwenzakalayo. Intatheli izindaba ze-ZBC ziqhubekela phambili ezisiphathela konke okwenzakalayo endaweni ke ezichiyechiyeneyo. Sikhangele njalo ukuthi siyabe siqhubekela phambili silethulela kuze kuyefika leso sikhathi lapho okumele sizwe ukuthi izekhi yona iyabe isithini njengoba yiyo ke esiyimelele.
Yeah, indeed, we are waiting for the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to be able to give us more of the updates during the course of our programming. But let's listen in to Theophilus Chuma, who can also give us the update at various election polls in the country.
Vazhinji vabuda neuwandu hwavo kuti vaende kunovhota mukati mesarudzo dziri kuitika muzuva ranhasi. Tafamba munzvimbo dzakasiyana siyana kubva kuChikomba West tichienda nzvimbo dzinovhoterwa taenda pachivu primary school mangwanani tikaona vazhinji vachiuya rungwanani chairo zvekuti na 6 am vamwe vanga vatotanga kutoita mitsara yakareba kuti vakwanise kuvhotera wavanoda kuti aite achazova iye mutungamiriri wavo wenyika kana kuti achazovatungamirira sememba yeparamende kana kuti achazoita kanzera mukati menzvimbo dzavari. Iko zvino tiri muno muchirimhanzu umo mataona vazhinji vachiuya kuzobata basa rekuti vaise mavhoti avo pavari kuda. Taona vazhinji vachienda process yekuti vakwanise kutarisa mazita avo vachienda pane pose kuti vaona kuti zveshuwa mazita avo akanyorwa pasi maererano maringe neelectoral law yenyika ino. Kubva zvatasvika mangwanani taona kuti zvinhu zvose zvanga zvichifamba negwara uye kune runyararo munzvimbo dzatafamba. Tataura na presiding officer pano pachiweshe polling station avo vatiudzawo kuti kubva zvavavhura na 7:05 vaita basa ravo murunyararo uye zvafamba zvakanaka. Regai tinzwe vachitaura.
Urongwa hwedu hwafamba zvakanaka ende nzvimbo yedu yanga panga paine runyararo. Hapana zvatasangana nazvo zvatingati zvakanganisa vavhoti.
Chirimhanzu ndeimwe yenzvimbo dzatafamba asi tine dzimwe nzvimbo dzatiri kuda kuti timhanye tinoona kuti zviri kufambawo sei mukati menzvimbo idzodzo. Ndini Theophilus Chuma, mutori wenyu weZBC News, ndiri muno muchirimhanzu.
Thank you so much there to Theophilus Chuma giving us the update in Chirimanzu. Of course, the electoral process at full swing in and around the country. And talking about being in full swing in and around the country, Lucy, I know that we are currently also being able to appreciate that currently with the elections, we started off a bit late in the two of the main areas, that being Harare and Bulawayo, and the chief electoral officer, Slaikwana, coming through, of course, to be able to highlight what contributed to some of those challenges. Maybe you can just share with us some of the sentiments that he shared.
Yeah, uchazisile ke umnumzana Slaikwana ukuthi kube lokuphuza kokufika kwamanye ama-ballot papers kodwa ke njenge-Zimbabwe Electoral Commission bazamile ukuthi bagijigijime bahambise ke amaphepha wona lawo ngesikhathi. Njalo wachasisa ukuthi abantu bengaze badinakala kababekwazi ukuthi nxa kuyikuthi polling station yabo ivule kumbe ngo-8 babe kwazi ukuthi izavala njalo ngo-8, nxa ivule ngo-9 izavala njalo ngo-9. I-12 hours dzinofanira kutokhwana vanhu ngavasashushikana. Zimbabwe Electoral Commission iri kuzvifambira, yatozvifambira in fact zvese izvozvo yagadzirisa musashushikana zvenyu nokuti vazivisa kuti kunonoka kwaita kuvhura kana polling station yenyu nguva dzayavhura ndo dzaichavhara.
Yeah, definitely. And then also appreciating that when we do pass our 12-hour moratorium, that's when they now be making our way to the HICC, where the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission would be sharing the updates to the nation progressively from there. And an interesting development within this particular election, where the polling officers would be giving the results from the polling stations, that being a significant step made by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission.
Yeah, siyakwazi ukuthi eminyakeni edlulileyo abantu bebemelele ukuthi akuzahanjwa e-command center izekhe iqalisa ukuthi uzibanibani lo zibanibani, kodwa ke kathesi ama-National Assembly njengoba ekukhulumile futhi umnumzana Ohlile Slaikwana ukuthi kuma-National Assembly lamakhansela khona ngale ngase-constituency bayabe besazisa beqeda nje sebesazisa ukuthi kuhambe njani zvafamba sei ku-constituency ineyi. Muri yeZimbabwe regayithi mboyenda sike sifike ngale ngobulawayo ke sizwe kuDora eMontrose Studios. Dora, ungabe utshona njani siqhubekela phambili?
Thank you so much, Lucy and Farai, right there. It's myself, Dora Ncube, here at Montrose, and many thanks to the teams that have been taking us on since morning. And of course, it's the 23rd of August, and we as Zimbabweans are deciding. And well, I've done my part, I've cast my vote, and I do hope you've also cast your vote. And if you're still in the queues, please make sure you do cast your vote. And well, as we continue with our updates today, I have in the studio Reverend Hussein Spanda, who is a church leader under Zimbabwe Christian Alliance, as well as an observer in this year's election. Mr. Spanda, welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this important day.
Thank you so much. What can you say in terms of the political atmosphere as election day is on today?
Well, I think we, as Zimbabweans, we have maintained our peaceful atmosphere, the atmosphere of tolerance towards each other, which is very, very important. And also, as you know, that our country has to follow the constitution, so that's why we're having elections at this particular time. And part of our constitution embodies tolerance, among us as Zimbabweans. But also a very important element is the right to vote, which we got through our liberation struggle. So it's really a very, very important right for every Zimbabwean that we need to cherish and also to utilize. So it's a very important day for all of us as Zimbabweans today. A lot of our fathers and forefathers lost their lives fighting for this right to vote. So we must utilize it today. And so it's very important. But also, one good part is we are voting in peace, tolerating each other. So that's very important.
Yes, and then considering the build-up to the elections today, do you feel the elections have been free and fair?
Well, I think players have been allowed to campaign. Like I said, the issue of being peaceful has been very, very important. And also now Zimbabweans have got an opportunity to choose their leaders. And today they're having that choice. Everyone is allowed to go and vote. No one is being blocked. So that is also very important. I think we have the challenges that we have seen today, the administrative challenges that ZEC has. I think in some areas people have delayed voting up to now, late afternoon, that is 2 p.m. So the good part is that ZEC has said they will extend and give them all the necessary time that people need to have in order for them to vote that they were supposed to have. So that is also very important, and that people are patient and they can wait there and cast their vote. I think that is very important.
Now, as the church, what can you say to the nation in terms of peace prevailing in the nation, considering that in the last elections we had unnecessary tensions here and there because people were impatient, rather. So what do you say as the church?
I think what is important for this particular time will be the role of ZEC, that ZEC needs to give people to communicate with the electorate, with Zimbabweans, like they are doing now about the delays that were there in polling. So I think that helps to maintain peace. That communication is very important, but also for Zimbabweans to continue to be tolerant of each other, to continue to realize that elections come and elections go. But we remain as neighbors, we remain as Zimbabweans. We are Africans, so we live in communities, and that community and neighborliness never leaves. Jesus said the second most important commandment is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So I think it's very important for Zimbabweans to look at each other as neighbors and say, okay, today it's an election day, but tomorrow we'll continue as neighbors. So we encourage people to be peaceful today, to be peaceful tomorrow, and to tolerate each other as we continue.
Now, you are not just a church leader, you are an observer as well. So based on probably the reports and observations that you've done so far, can you pick out some key issues for us as the electorate and as well as the leaders?
Well, I think first the key issue which has been unique for this year has been the delays in being of the administrative, like I said, issues to do with ZEC, the ballot papers. We've had stations that have opened very late. So that I think ZEC will need to improve on that. But also there's the issue of names because of the delimitation process. A lot of people still had assumptions that they will vote in the same stations, but names had changed. I mean, the stations had changed. And so you have a lot of people, electorate, that had to move around looking for their names. So that could have been done earlier. But also, I guess because we live in a digital age now, the issue of the use of digitally searching for your station, some of the people had challenges because the network was not good today. So they assumed that they'll be able to check, but they couldn't do that. So we need to improve on that as well and make sure the speed is up and people are able to do that. But also another important issue is the issue of voter education. for people to realize that your vote is your secret. We always say in the church that only God can see your vote. So that's very important. That secrecy that ZEC also emphasizes on. And I think ZEC has been running these adverts and educating people on that.
And lastly, your word of advice to the nation as we probably conclude today the election and await the results.
Well, elections are part of our nation building process. And they are part of us as Zimbabweans. We fought for the liberation struggle to have a one man, one vote. And so we pray that we exercise that today peacefully, and that when the results come, we can be able to tolerate each other and be able to talk to each other. So that's very important. And we pray that God will bless our country.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend, for coming. That was Reverend Hussein Spanda, a church leader as well as an observer, and he has just highlighted how we desire peace in our country even as we go on with our right, our constitutional right, actually, as Zimbabweans to vote for the leaders that we want. Remember, we're voting for our presidential candidate, we're voting for National Assembly candidates, and we're also voting for our local authority candidates. And as promised, we will continue giving you updates here on your favorite station, ZBC TV. But right now, we will take you back to the team at Pocketsville, where Farai and Lucy are still on standby. Farai, it's back to you for now.
Siyabonga kakhulu Dora Ncube ngapho ngase Montrose, sibonga njalo futhi lokusethulela okwenzakalayo kulelo cele. Siqhubekela ke phambili sikhona pha silethulela njalo okwenzakalayo okwamanje muli yeZimbabwe. Wothi seqele ngale ngakuntathela izindaba yeZBC uThafara Chikumira esethulela laye okwenzakalayo lapho akhona.
We are here at Skombingo Primary School, where we are witnessing people waiting to cast their votes. With me here is the presiding officer at Skombingo Adventist Primary School, Mr. Hensam Swanda, who is going to tell us more about what has been happening at this polling station. It's a good afternoon, sir. Please, can you go ahead?
Good afternoon. How are you? We opened at 7 o'clock hours in the morning. The turnout has been good. We witnessed 130 females and 87 males, total of 217.
And have there been any incidents of to note?
No incident observed. The atmosphere has been calm.
That was Mr. Swanda telling us about what has been happening here at Skombingo Primary School. Apart from Vungu constituency, we have also managed to visit Gweru Urban, Mukoba North and South, as well as parts of Slovela constituencies, where presiding officers are singing the same hymn.
All 11 polling stations in Ward 4, Gweru Urban constituency, opened at 7 o'clock a.m. with 393 voters in the queue. As you can see, it is calm, no incidences, people are behaving.
Yeah, in the morning we had a queue of about 25 voters, but as the day progresses, the number reduces.
One of the major highlights in the Midlands province was when one of the presidential hopeful from the province, Mr. Trust Chikohora of the Zimbabwe Coalition for Peace and Development, ZCPD, cast his vote in company of his family at Muunga Primary School in Ascot suburb.
We got here, we were shown the voters' rolls, which were pasted outside the classrooms. I managed to search for my name. It was in alphabetical order. I found it with my family, and we were directed to polling station BA. So then we were ushered into BA. We were given all the instructions, given the ballot papers. Everything was smooth. I've managed to cast my vote, and I encourage everybody to go out and cast their vote.
The electorate from all the visited suburbs have so far expressed satisfaction with the voting process.
Kuhle futhi bamphathe kuhle abantwana laba ngoba angikwanisi lokuthi ndobokuhamba kodwa bangiphathe kuhle bangipha lesitulo sokuhlala bangikhangelela kuhle ibizo lami lasweleka kwindawo bangiphatha kuhle bathi gogo hamba ngale ngafika ngale bangiphatha kuhle njalo bangivulela kuhle bangipha kuhle izinto zami ngaze ngavota kuhle.
Ayithina silapha emaboleni ayithina sesivotile kodwa ayisiphathe kuhle azange sibone ukuhlukuluzwa siphathe kuhle ngendlela ezifaneleyo sivile.
Ngihle ngemukeleka ngithe ngisuke kukhangeleni ibizo bacela isithupha sami
basibona mna ngoka-41 bahle bathi gogo ngena endlini
bose kwatavhotera uko kune laini revarume nelaini revakadzi zvinhu zvacho zviri kungoita fe vakatora varume vanongotora vakadzi hanamboita nguva yakareba
problem zviri kufamba zvakanaka hatina dambudziko so nedhati susu madziso achanyatsoona tisingazivi kuti zvinonhenge zviri kufamba sei but tatarisa mazita tikamaona.
As you can see, it looks like it's going to be a long day for some of us as we continue to move around to check on what is happening in other constituencies. I will be moving to Chundura constituency later in the afternoon so that we can have a feel of what is going on in that constituency. And it's back to the studio.
Waita kota Fara siyabonga kakhulu ngokwenzakala khona ngale ngase Midlands. Uyabona Farai into engichaza kakhulu ngama elections lawa. Ogogo uyababona. Umbonile ugogo senqoleni. You know, ukhetha ukuthi ngcono ngihambe ngenqola. Ngiyevota. Wahamba sibili wayenza into yakhe wathaba futhi ukuthi bamncedisile bamtshengisa lapha kumele ahambe ngakhona konke bamenzela wathaba njalo wagada futhi inqola yakhe ebuyela ke ekhaya into nje echazayo nje kubona ukuthi ogogo bazinikele ende kulokuthula ukuthi ogogo abasenqoleni bazinikele ukuthi wathi ngihambe ngoba kuyahambeka ngoba kukhululekile into ekhona into eyenzakalayo yikho ke esikuphathela khona mlalelo omuhle khona ngapho ngasemakhaya silitshengisa ke ukuthi kuhamba njani siliphathela konke intatheli izindaba ze-ZBC zisitshengisa ukuthi kwenzakalani ngakhona ngale endaweni
ezithile. Most certainly, and I also can't help but agree with you so much there, Lucy, when you see the elderly being able to take advantage of this opportunity to be able to cast their vote, not only acknowledging the fact that it is the only thing that a Zimbabwean is allowed to be able to do, the privilege that only speaks to, I think, is exemplified by Abadal. And on that particular note, of course, we will ensure that we do give you more updates as we progress right here on ZBC News, keeping you updated, especially on our social media platform at ZBC News Online. We will be taking a short break, but however, we will have more updates coming back again at 4 p.m. a bit later on this afternoon. And then, of course, when the election results will start getting announced later on this evening, we will be able to at least give you those updates right here on ZBC. Stay tuned.
2023, Zimbabwe decides.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
Let's live it up and party and have cracking good fun. When it comes to edutainment, DSTV's #1.
Is everybody ready to go, go, go?
We've got the zaniest characters to transport you away. The party is cracking, so why not come play? You're gonna love it. We've got so many channels and a ton of